All right, let's get real. Ever notice how some people only value you when it benefits them? They disappear when you need them, but the moment they want something, they're right back, acting like nothing happened. They give mixed signals, make you question your worth, and expect you to keep chasing them while they put in zero effort. And we're just supposed to accept it? Not today. If you're done wasting your time on people who treat you like an option, this video is for you. Today, I'm breaking down the clear, undeniable red flags that show when someone isn't worth your energy, and more importantly, why you should never chase after someone who does this to you. These aren't just small annoyances. They are signs that someone does not respect you, and the harsh truth, the longer you tolerate it, the worse it gets. So buckle up, because by the end of this, you'll have every tool you need to recognize when it's time to stop trying, pull back your energy, and walk away with your self-respect fully intact. Let's dive in. Number 1, ignores your presence. Let's talk about one of the clearest yet most overlooked signs that someone doesn't value you. They ignore your presence. It's subtle at first. Maybe they don't acknowledge when you walk into a room. Maybe your messages go unanswered for hours, days, even though you know they're online. Maybe they engage with everyone else in a group setting, but somehow you always feel like an afterthought. And the worst part? When you finally bring it up, they brush it off. Oh, I didn't even realize, or you're overthinking it. But here's the truth. If someone constantly overlooks you, they've already made their choice. You don't need to beg for attention. You don't need to remind someone to respect your presence. People make time for what matters to them. And if they're showing you through their actions that you're not a priority, then believe them. The biggest mistake you can make is trying to prove your worth to someone who has already decided to ignore it. You chase, you overcompensate, you try harder, hoping that one day they'll suddenly realize your value. But they won't, because the moment you start chasing is the moment they know they can take you for granted. The more effort you put in, the less they respect you. And that's not because you're not worthy, it's because you're giving them power they never earned. This is where Stoic wisdom comes in. Respect yourself enough to walk away. In life, you don't force yourself where you're not valued. You don't beg for a seat at someone's table. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Choose not to be harmed and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed and you haven't been." What does that mean? It means you decide your worth. You decide whether someone's lack of attention affects you. You decide whether you let their indifference lower your value. And the best way to respond to someone who ignores you, you remove yourself completely. Let me share a story. A guy I know, let's call him Jake, was always the one making plans in his friend group, always reaching out, always initiating conversations. But over time, he noticed something. If he didn't text first, no one did. If he didn't invite them out, he wasn't invited. He realized he was putting in 90% of the effort while they barely put in 10%. So one day, he stopped. He decided if they care, they'll reach out. And guess what? Silence. That was all the confirmation he needed. So how do you handle this? First, stop making excuses for their behavior. If someone is ignoring you, they know they're doing it. Second, don't chase, observe. See what happens when you pull back your effort. If they don't notice, you have your answer. And finally, value yourself enough to leave. Walk away from anyone who treats you like an option, because the right people will never make you feel invisible. At the end of the day, you deserve to be surrounded by people who see you, acknowledge you, and appreciate you. So stop chasing, stop begging, and stop waiting for them to care. If someone ignores your presence, respect yourself enough to disappear from theirs. Number 2, gives you mixed signals. Let's talk about one of the most frustrating behaviors, mixed signals. One day, they act like you're the most important person in their life. The next, they're distant, cold, or completely uninterested. They text you first, then ignore your replies. They make plans, then suddenly cancel or get busy. And just when you start pulling away, they reel you back in with just enough attention to keep you holding on. It's confusing, It's exhausting, and worst of all, it makes you question yourself. Here's the truth. Uncertainty is a decision in itself. If someone is inconsistent, it's not because they're confused, it's because they don't truly value you. When someone genuinely cares, you don't have to guess where you stand. You don't have to decode their messages, analyze their actions, or wonder if they really meant what they said. They show up, they make an effort, they give you clarity. But people who give mixed signals, they thrive on keeping you in limbo. They want you interested enough to stick around but unsure enough that you never feel secure. They want the option of you, not the commitment to you. And the longer you tolerate it, the more power they have. This is where Stoic wisdom comes in. If someone's actions don't align with their words, trust the actions. In life, people can say anything. They can promise, they can apologize, they can make you feel special when it suits them. But consistency is what separates real effort from manipulation. If someone is hot and cold with you, if they disappear and reappear when it's convenient for them, that's not confusion, that's a choice. And your choice, walk away. Let me share a story. A woman I know, let's call her Maya, was talking to someone who would shower her with attention one day, then disappear for weeks. When she'd call him out on it, he always had an excuse. Oh, I've been so busy. Yet somehow, he always had time for other things. Anytime Maya pulled back, he'd sense it and come running, calling, texting, acting as if he truly cared. But after a while, she saw the pattern. His effort only came when he felt like he was losing her. That's when she realized, someone who actually values you doesn't treat you like a backup plan. So how do you handle mixed signals? First, stop making excuses for them. If someone is inconsistent, it's because they choose to be. Second, don't fall for words. Watch their actions. If they only make an effort when they think you're slipping away, they don't value you, they fear losing control. And finally, don't wait for clarity. Give it to yourself. If someone truly wants you in their life, they will make sure you know it. If they don't, they'll keep you guessing. At the end of the day, you don't need to chase, beg, or wait for someone to make up their mind about you. Mixed signals are a signal in themselves. If someone can't be consistent, respect yourself enough to walk away, because the right people won't leave you questioning where you stand. Number 3, takes you for granted. Let's talk about one of the clearest signs that someone doesn't truly value you. They take you for granted. You're always there, always available, always putting in the effort. And for a while, it seems normal. You assume they appreciate you, even if they don't always say it. But then something shifts. You start to realize that your presence is expected, not valued. They don't acknowledge your effort, they don't reciprocate your energy, and they don't make an effort to keep you around. Yet the moment you stop trying, the moment you pull back, suddenly they notice. Here's the truth. If someone only notices your absence, not your presence, their loyalty is based on convenience, not respect. They don't value you, they value the role you play in their life. Maybe it's your support, your kindness, or your willingness to always be there, but instead of appreciating it, they assume it will always be available. And that's the problem. When people believe you will always be there, they stop treating you like you matter. This is where Stoic wisdom comes in. Seneca once said, "Do not attach yourself to those who do not uplift you." In other words, your energy, your time, and your loyalty should be reserved for those who genuinely appreciate and respect it. If someone only shows effort when they feel like they're losing you, that's not love, friendship, or respect. That's entitlement. Let me share a story. A guy I know, let's call him Adam, was always the one making plans in his group. He reached out, checked in, made the effort. He assumed his friends valued him, even though they rarely initiated anything. One day, Adam decided to stop being the one to reach out first. Weeks went by. Silence. No one texted, no one called. And that's when it hit him. He wasn't part of their life because they valued him. He was part of their life because he made it easy for them. The moment he stopped putting in the effort, the connection faded. That's the harsh truth. When people truly care about you, they don't wait for your absence to remind them of your worth. They appreciate your presence while you're still there. So how do you handle this? First, recognize the imbalance. If you're always the one making the effort while they do the bare minimum, it's time to take a step back. Second, stop proving your worth. If someone can't see your value without constant reminders, they don't deserve you. And finally, walk away when necessary. You are not an option, a convenience, or a backup plan. If someone takes you for granted, the best response isn't to argue, explain, or beg. It's to remove yourself from the equation. At the end of the day, the right people won't need to lose you to realize your worth. Surround yourself with those who uplift you, not those who only value you when it's convenient for them. If you believe this video can help others, give it a like. Your support helps the YouTube algorithm show it to more people. And don't forget to subscribe for more awesome content coming your way. Number 4, only comes around when they need something. Let's talk about one of the clearest signs that someone doesn't truly value you. They only show up when they need something. You don't hear from them for weeks, maybe even months. No check-ins, no genuine conversations, no effort to see how you're doing. But the moment they need a favor, suddenly they remember you exist. They show up with a friendly tone, act interested in your life for a few minutes, and then, there it is, the request. It could be money, a ride, help with something, or even just emotional support when they're going through a tough time. But once they get what they need, they disappear again like clockwork. Here's the truth. If someone only seeks you out when they need something, you're not a priority. You're just an option. You're not in their life because they appreciate you. You're there because you're useful to them. And the worst part? They don't even feel the need to hide it. They assume you'll always be available, that you'll always pick up, that you'll always say yes. Why? Because you've done it before. And this is where Stoic wisdom comes in. Seneca once said, "Associate only with those who make you a better person." The people you surround yourself with should add to your life, not just take from it. A real friend, a real connection, isn't just there when it's convenient for them. They show up when they don't need anything, just because they value you. If someone only remembers you when they need a favor, then ask yourself, is this really a relationship or is it just a transaction? Let me share a story. A woman I know, let's call her Emma, had a friend like this. For months, she never heard from him. Then, out of nowhere, he'd text, always starting with something like, "Hey, long time no talk." At first, she'd get excited, thinking he actually wanted to catch up. But within minutes, he'd slip in a request. "Can you help me with this?" Or, "I really need a favor." It was a pattern. When Emma finally decided to stop responding immediately, something interesting happened. He stopped reaching out altogether. Not once did he text just to ask how she was. And that's when she realized he never valued the friendship. He only valued what he could get from it. So how do you handle people like this? First, recognize the pattern. If someone only calls when they need something, that's not a coincidence, that's a habit. Second, set boundaries. You don't owe anyone unlimited access to your time and energy. Learn to say no without guilt. And finally, invest in the right people. True relationships are built on mutual respect, not one-sided convenience. At the end of the day, the right people in your life won't just come around when they need something. They'll be there because they genuinely care. So stop entertaining those who treat you like an option and start valuing yourself as a priority. Number 5, disrespects your boundaries. Let's talk about one of the biggest signs that someone doesn't truly respect you. They repeatedly cross your boundaries. At first, it might seem small. Maybe they pressure you to do something you're uncomfortable with, dismiss your feelings when you express them, or brush off your requests like they don't matter. You tell them no, but somehow they find a way to push past it. You set a limit, but they act like it's negotiable. And the worst part? When you call them out, they make you feel like the problem. You're being too sensitive. Or, relax, it's not that big of a deal. Here's the truth. Someone who repeatedly disregards your limits does not value you as a person. It's not about misunderstanding, it's about control. People who don't respect boundaries don't just want access to you. They want to dictate how much access they get. They want to test how much they can take before you push back. And every time you let them slide, they learn that your boundaries are flexible, that your no doesn't really mean no. This is where Stoic wisdom comes in. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." What does that mean? It means that your peace, your time, and your energy belong to you. If you allow others to constantly push past your boundaries, you're not truly in control of your life. They are. The moment you let someone else dictate your limits, you hand them power over your emotions, your decisions, and even your sense of self-worth. And that's not freedom. That's servitude. Let me share a story. A guy I know, let's call him Ryan, had a friend who constantly pushed his limits. Ryan was a naturally giving person, always willing to help. But this friend took advantage of that. He'd ask for favors last minute, expect Ryan to drop everything for him, and get upset when Ryan wasn't available. One day, Ryan finally said no. He had plans and couldn't help. Instead of understanding, the friend got irritated and said, "Wow, I thought you were the kind of person who helps his friends." That was the moment Ryan realized. This person didn't respect him. They only respected what they could get from him. So how do you handle people who don't respect your boundaries? First, be firm. Your no should be final, not something they can negotiate. Second, stop explaining yourself. The more you justify your boundaries, the more you give them room to argue. And finally, enforce consequences. If someone keeps crossing the line, step back, limit their access to you. If they truly valued you, they wouldn't be testing your limits in the first place. At the end of the day, boundaries are not about controlling others. They're about respecting yourself. If someone refuses to honor your limits, they don't deserve a place in your life. Protect your peace, stand your ground, and remember, real respect doesn't need to be begged for. If you've watched the video this far, make sure to comment "Thank God" to let us know you're with us. Number 6, competes with you instead of supporting you. Let's talk about one of the most toxic behaviors that often hides in plain sight. Someone who competes with you instead of supporting you. At first, it might not be obvious. They act like they're on your side, but somehow every conversation turns into a comparison. You share an achievement, and instead of celebrating with you, they immediately talk about how they've done something similar or better. You hit a milestone, and they suddenly feel the need to outdo you. They're not happy for you, they're challenged by you. Here's the truth. A true ally celebrates your success. A hidden rival feels threatened by it. And the worst part? These people rarely show their true colors outright. They disguise their competition as friendly banter. "Oh, wow, that's great. But guess what I just did?" They pretend to be happy for you, but their energy tells a different story. They might even offer backhanded compliments like, "That's amazing. I never thought you'd be able to pull that off." It's subtle, but if you pay attention, you'll notice the pattern. They're not rooting for you, they're trying to keep up with you. And this is where Stoic wisdom comes in. Epictetus once said, "The jealousy of others is a silent confession of their own inferiority." Think about that. People who constantly compete with you aren't doing it because they dislike you. They're doing it because your success reminds them of their own insecurities. Instead of focusing on their own growth, they focus on keeping up with you. And that's not friendship, that's rivalry. Let me share a story. A woman I know, let's call her Lisa, had a friend who always acted supportive, but something always felt off. Anytime Lisa shared good news, this friend would quickly one-up her. If Lisa got a promotion, the friend would immediately talk about how she was thinking of leaving her job for something even better. If Lisa mentioned a personal achievement, her friend would respond with, "That's cool, but you should really try what I did. It's next level." At first, Lisa ignored it, thinking it was just her imagination. But over time, she realized this wasn't friendship. This was a hidden competition, and no matter what she did, this person would never truly celebrate her wins. So how do you handle people like this? First, stop sharing your success with them. If someone constantly tries to compete with you, take away their scoreboard. Second, observe their behavior. Do they only get excited about your failures, but stay quiet about your wins? That tells you everything you need to know. And finally, distance yourself from people who see you as competition instead of inspiration. The right people will celebrate you, the wrong people will resent you. At the end of the day, real friends don't feel threatened by your success. They cheer for it. If someone competes with you instead of supporting you, take it as a sign. Their jealousy is not your problem to fix, it's theirs to face. Number 7, shows no effort to keep you in their life. Let's talk about one of the clearest signs that someone doesn't value you. They put in no effort to keep you in their life. It's always you reaching out first. You're the one making plans, checking in, keeping the connection alive. And for a while, you convince yourself that maybe they're just busy, or maybe they don't realize how one-sided things have become. But deep down, you know the truth. If someone truly cared, you wouldn't have to force your place in their life. Here's the reality. If you're the only one trying, the connection isn't mutual. A real relationship, whether it's a friendship, a romantic connection, or even family, requires effort from both sides. If someone values you, they will show it, not just in words, but in actions. They'll text first sometimes. They'll make time for you without you having to beg for it. They'll check in, even when they don't need anything from you. But if someone constantly leaves all the effort on you, that's not a relationship. It's you holding on to something that only exists because you refuse to let go. And this is where Stoic wisdom comes in. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The wise do not chase what is not meant for them." Think about that. The moment you have to chase, convince, or beg someone to be in your life, you've already lost. Because the people who are truly meant to stay, they won't make you question whether they want to be there. Let me share a story. A guy I know, let's call him Daniel, had a best friend he had known for years. They used to be inseparable. But over time, Daniel realized something. He was the only one keeping the friendship alive. If he didn't text first, days, sometimes weeks, would go by with silence. If he didn't suggest meeting up, they wouldn't see each other. So one day, Daniel decided to stop reaching out first. He wanted to see what would happen. And guess what? Nothing happened. The friend never reached out, never asked how he was doing, never made an effort to reconnect. And that was all the confirmation Daniel needed. This person didn't value him enough to keep him in their life. And you know what? That hurt. But it also set him free. Because once he let go of the people who weren't willing to put in effort, he made space for those who would. So how do you handle this? First, stop making excuses for them. If they wanted to, they would. It's that simple. Second, pull back your effort and observe. If they don't notice or care, that tells you everything you need to know. And finally, have the courage to walk away. The right people will never leave you feeling like you have to fight for a spot in their life. At the end of the day, love, friendship, and connection should never feel like a one-person job. If you're the only one trying, it's time to stop. Respect yourself enough to let go, because the people who truly value you will never make you feel like an afterthought. If you found this video helpful, like it, subscribe for more timeless wisdom, and let's connect in the comments. What's one lesson or sign that stood out to you? I'll personally reply to your comments, so let's talk.